What's up, you guys? Welcome to the video. Today it's a Spin Master Monster Jam collection video. It's Friday night. It's gonna be a great tonight, so we'll go ahead and start the video with Gears Blue Thunder. Now this thing, gold chassis and wheels with white roll cage and tires, golden beacons of printing with Astro treads. Moving on to Ice Grave Digger. Now this thing, blue chassis and wheels with white roll cage with clear blue tires, white beacon to printing with white ice treads. Moving on to Zombie Megalodon. Now this thing, black chassis with red roll cage and green wheels, black beacon to printing with glitter treads. Moving on to Galaxy's Monster Mutt Dalmatian. Now this thing, Scion chassis, beadlocks and beacon to printing with black roll cage and wheels with dark purple treads. Moving on to Fire Son of a Digger. Now this thing, red chassis and wheels with yellow roll cage and red beacon to printing with yellow fire treads. Moving on to Hunter Max D. Now this thing, gray chassis with brown roll cage with mahogany wheels and chrome beacon to printing with Hunter gray treads. Moving on to Gears Alien Invasion. Everything looks same as Blue Thunder. Moving on to Ice Dragon. Everything looks same as Grave Digger. Moving on to Zombie El Toro Loco. Now this thing, black chassis with yellow roll cage with red wheels, black beacon to printing with white glitter treads. Moving on to Galaxy's Bakugan Dragonoid. Everything looks the same as a Dalmatian. Moving on to Fire Great Clips Mohawk Warrior. Everything looks the same as Son of a Digger. Moving on to Hunter Earthshaker. Everything looks the same as Max D. Moving on to the Neo Galaxy Grave Digger. Now this thing, white chassis and with purple roll cage with pink wheels, teal tires, and white beacon to printing. Moving on to the Nitro Grave Digger. Now this thing, pink chassis with black roll cage and tires with purple beacon to printing and beadlocks. Got teal wheels. Moving on to Beakity Customs Grave Digger. Now this thing, Silver chassis and wheels with green roll cage and beadlocks, beacons for the tires. Moving on to BKT Customs Gravedigger Orange. Now this thing. Silver chassis with orange roll cage and wheels, beacons for the tires. Moving on to BKT Customs Gravedigger Red. Now this thing. Silver chassis with red roll cage and tires with wheels, beacons for the tires. Moving on to BKT Customs Gravedigger Purple. Now this thing. Black chassis with purple roll cage, blue wheels, beacons for the tires. Moving on to BKT Customs Son of a Digger. Now this thing. Silver chassis and wheels with blue roll cage, purple beadlocks, beacons for the tires. Moving on to BKT Customs Son of a Digger Yellow. Now this thing. Black silver chassis and wheels with yellow roll cage, purple beadlocks, beacons for the tires. Moving on to BKT Customs Velociraptor. Now this thing. Silver chassis with black roll cage and wheels, beacons for the tires. Moving on to BKT Customs Jurassic Attack. Now this thing. Silver chassis with purple roll cage and wheels, beacons for the tires. Moving on to BKT Customs Bad News Travels Fast. Now this thing. Orange chassis and beadlocks with black roll cage and silver wheels, beacons for the tires. Moving on to BKT Customs Aftershock. Now this thing. Yellow chassis and wheels with blue roll cage with beacons for the tires. Moving on to BKT Customs Northern Nightmare. Now this thing. Silver chassis with red roll cage, orange wheels, beacons for the tires. Moving on to BKT Customs Blue Thunder. Now this thing. Silver chassis with green roll cage and wheels, beacons for the tires. Moving on to BKT Customs Dragon. Now this thing. Silver chassis with maroon roll cage with green wheels, beacons for the tires. Moving on to BKT Customs Megalodon. Now this thing, silver chassis and roll cage with aqua wheels, speaking for the tires. Moving on to BKT Customs Rainbow Blast. Now this thing, red chassis with white roll cage and wheels, speaking for the tires. Moving on to BKT Customs Kraken. Now this thing, copper chassis with dirt brown roll cage, pink wheels, speaking for the tires. And now moving on to the original Gravedigger. Now this thing, silver chassis with black roll cage and tires with yellow wheels. Moving on to Gravedigger the Legend. Now this thing, black chassis and roll cage and tires with silver wheels. Black chassis. Moving on to the retro Gravedigger. Now this thing, black chassis with green roll cage and wheels with black tires. Moving on to Gravedigger number 7. Now this thing, silver chassis and wheels with green roll cage with flotation tires. Moving on to the green ghost Gravedigger. Now this thing, also silver chassis and wheels with green roll cage with flotation tires. Moving on to the 30th anniversary Gravedigger. Now this thing, silver chassis and wheels with green roll cage and bead locks with black tires. Moving on to the 40th anniversary Gravedigger. Now this thing, silver chassis and wheels with black roll cage and tires with purple bead locks. Moving on to Son of a Digger. Now this thing, silver chassis and wheels with blue roll cage and bead locks. Got black tires. Moving on to the green Nitro Neon Gravedigger. Now this thing, green chassis, roll cage and tires with white wheels. Moving on to the blue Nitro Neon Son of a Digger. Now this thing, light blue chassis and tires with dark blue roll cage with white wheels. Moving on to the yellow Nitro Neon Earthshaker. Now this thing, yellow chassis and tires with brown roll cage and white wheels. Moving on to the pink Nitro Neon Calavera. Now this thing, chassis, everything's all pink. Chassis, roll cage, wheels, and tires, all pink. Moving on to the teal Nitro Neon Blue Thunder. Now this thing, got teal chassis and wheels with brown roll cage and tires. Moving on to the lime green Nitro Neon Gravedigger. Now this thing, lime green chassis, wheels, and tires with black roll cage. Moving on to the 2024 green Max D. Now this thing, green chassis and wheels with chrome roll cage and yellow tires. Moving on to the 2024 orange Max D. Now this thing got orange chassis and wheels with maroon roll cage and yellow tires. Moving on to the orange Nitro Neon Max D. Now this thing got orange chassis, wheels, and tires with black roll cage. Moving on to the yellow Nitro Neon Max D. Now this thing got silver chassis with yellow roll cage and tires with black wheels. Moving on to the green Nitro Neon Max D. Now this thing, silver chassis with green roll cage and tires with black wheels. Moving on to the purple Nitro Neon Max D. Now this thing, purple chassis, wheels, and tires with white roll cage. Moving on to the Gravedigger Ride Truck. Now this thing, green chassis and wheels with black tires with the seats in the back. Moving on to the 1982, the original Gravedigger. Now this thing, black chassis and wheels with black chassis and tires with yellow wheels. Flotation tires. Moving on to the 1984 grain truck Gravedigger. Now this thing, black chassis and wheels with flotation tires. Moving on to the 1986 Grandma Gravedigger. Now this thing got black chassis and with brown wheels, flotation tires. Moving on to Custom Elementals Trucks Gravedigger. Now this thing. Purple chassis with black roll cage with green and yellow wheels on the left, and red and orange wheels on the right with blue tires. Moving on, last but not least, to the custom phased out son of a digger. Now this thing. White chassis with black roll cage with 2 red wheels, 1 black wheel, and 1 white wheel. Got 2 black tires and 2 white tires. And that'll be it. We're going to make sure you like, subscribe, also turn on the notifications to Parker Wilson's Blinking and Amigos. So, have a good night. Goodbye.